My mother stole my rich fiance. 10 years later, at our grandmother's funeral we reunited. My mother said, "Poor you, still single at 32, look at my husband. Handsome, rich, and happy." I replied, "Meet my husband too." When I called my husband, my mother turned pale, 'cause he was. I never imagined that a phone call could turn my life upside down, but that's exactly what happened. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in Chicago when I saw my phone light up with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me I should answer. When I did, the voice on the other end was unmistakable, even though years had passed. "Samantha, it's Isabella," she said, her tone dripping with an odd mix of formality and something I couldn't quite place. "Isabella," replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's going on, Isabella?" My estranged mother had called to deliver the news that our grandmother had passed away. The news itself was shocking, but the way she spoke made it clear she had a hidden agenda. "I just wanted to let you know," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of mockery. "I'm sure you're busy with your modest life." I could almost hear her smirking through the phone. Her words stung, but I tried not to let it show. "Thank you for letting me know. I'll make arrangements to come." It wasn't just her words that hurt, it was the memories they dredged up. Growing up, Isabella was always the gold digger. She had my father's favor and a certain charm that seemed to make everything fall into place for her. As for me, I was often left in the shadows. Even though I tried my best to excel, my efforts seemed to be overlooked. Isabella and I hadn't spoken much in years. After she had stolen David from me, I cut ties with her, and by extension, with the rest of my family. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about how it highlighted the unequal treatment I had always felt. David had been my fiancé, the love of my life, and we had a future planned together. That was, until Isabella, with her manipulative charm, came into the picture. David left me for her, and I was devastated. It wasn't just a broken relationship, it was a betrayal that left scars. Our family had always been fractured. After my father learned that my mother stole my fiancé, he also left us, and that was the last day we heard from him. After the breakup, I chose a different path. I left my job as a school administrator to focus on raising my daughter, Lily. My husband, a supportive tech executive, loved me for who I was. We had a cozy home in the suburbs and a life that, while modest, was filled with love. Lily, our 6-year-old daughter, was a bright spot in our lives. She had a passion for drawing and even had a popular YouTube channel where she shared her artwork with the world. Despite the success in my personal life, the call from Isabella brought back a wave of old emotions. The thought of returning to the family home for the funeral filled me with apprehension. I hadn't been there in years, and the memories were bittersweet. Our grandmother had always been a beacon of kindness in our family. She was the one person who had supported me unconditionally. Her death marked the end of an era, and now, with Isabella's call, it felt like I was being dragged back into a world I had tried to leave behind. I spent the next few days preparing for the trip. The thought of seeing Isabella again filled me with a mix of dread and anticipation. It wasn't just about the funeral, it was about facing the family dynamics that had shaped so much of my life. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Isabella's call than just the announcement of our grandmother's passing. When the day of the funeral arrived, I found myself standing in front of the old family home. The house looked exactly as I remembered it, unchanged, and yet somehow different. It was as if the walls held echoes of our childhood, the echoes of laughter and fights, of dreams and disappointments. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with grief and nostalgia. I saw familiar faces, some filled with sorrow and others marked by hidden agendas. As I moved through the crowd, I caught sight of Isabella. Her eyes scanned the room with a practiced indifference. She was surrounded by people who seemed to hang on her every word, her charm as potent as ever. I watched her with a sense of unease. Despite the years and the distance, it felt like we were still locked in the same old struggle. Isabella's presence was a stark reminder of the family dynamics that had always been a part of my life. In the middle of the ceremony, as the eulogies were being delivered, Isabella managed to corner me. "Samantha," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "it's been a while." I forced a smile in return. "Yes, it has. How have you been?" "Oh, she replied, her voice tripping with false sweetness, "life has been interesting." I could sense the undercurrent in her word, the same old rivalry that had never truly faded. As I looked at her, I realized that this reunion was not just about mourning our grandmother. It was about confronting the past, the betrayals, and the choices that had shaped both of our lives. Little did I know that this encounter would set the stage for revelations that would change everything I thought I knew about my sister and our family. The days leading up to the funeral were filled with tension and unresolved feelings. I tried to focus on my family, John, Lily, and our daily routines, but it was impossible to ignore the looming reunion with Isabella and the family I had distanced myself from.